Hi, this is Steve Hill. You're watching the AU Review.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, and welcome back to Quebec City.
Hey, it's always a pleasure to be here.
Now you're playing with a pretty big deal tonight.
Yeah, John Mayall.
So yeah, talk us through that, I suppose.
Well, I guess the first Mayall record I bought was the Beano album with Clapton when I was like 13 years old. And I've been a fan ever since. I mean, the guy had Clapton, he had Peter Green, Mick Taylor. Pretty big shoes to fill right there. Amazing. And he's 80 years old now, here tonight in Quebec City. I did open for him about 20 years ago at the old Forum in Montreal, a long time ago. I don't even remember if I met him. I think I might have, shaken his hand, but I don't remember.
It's all a blur.
Yeah.
When 20 years ago, was that, were you performing at solo then?
No,
'Cause I know
no.
you had other bands.
Yeah. I've always had a band. I used to play solo when I was 17 or 18 years old. I used to play on street corners in my hometown and play some pubs and stuff like that. I also had a band. Actually, I had two bands back then, and since then I've always had a band. But about 3 years ago, I got a friend of mine. He buys and sells vintage guitars, and I'm a really good client. And he came to my place with an old 50s Gibson ES-225, and I couldn't buy it that day. I didn't have the money. So he went back to his place, and he called me back, and he says, I'm going to do something. Here's the offer, I'll organize a solo show for you in exchange for the guitar. I said, yes, got the guitar, did a solo show. Back then I was just foot stomping on the floor, and the reaction was great. And I hadn't really done like a blues show in about 10 years because I started in the blues music scene, but then I moved towards like a rock and roll kind of thing, and so it was really good for me. It felt good, and being older, I felt like, I can really sing these tunes now, which I used to sing those tunes when I was 17 years old, but didn't sound like the real thing, But, I was finally a man, a grown man, and I could sing those songs. So I told my agent, you got to book more of those shows. And at first it was just a side line thing, just something that I was doing on the side. But then I released Solo Recordings Volume 1 2 years ago, and it was a big success, in the blues music scene. And I did 168 shows with this album, and people were asking for Volume 2. I called Solo Recordings Volume 1 because I figured, if down the road 10 years from now I want to do another project like this, it'll be obvious that's what it is. I never thought that I'd do one right after. And Volume 2 came out 4 months ago, and it's doing even better than Volume 1. So I'm very happy, and the setup keeps getting bigger and bigger. On Volume 1, I only had a bass drum and a hi-hat, and on most of the album, I think I'm just foot stomping or attaching like a coffee cup with coins and gaffer taping that to my boots, and it was mostly stuff like that. And on Volume 2, I got a kick, a snare, a hi-hat. I got a drumstick holder on my guitar headstock. So I got a drumstick there, and I'm playing the cymbal with it, and I modified my guitars so there's a pickup that grabs the sound of the big strings. That goes through an octaver and a bass amp, so you actually hear bass. And I learned how to play harp on a few tunes, and so it's a lot of fun, this project. I love it.
And I read that you're already thinking about, you already have the intention to turn this into a trilogy. So how do you then up the ante from there? Because, what more could you do?
Well, you'll see. I got plenty of time. But I'm going to start recording some stuff in the fall. I record my albums in my studio, so I'm going to start. And, I'll just take my time for this one, Usually I'm always, there's the deadline, and I have to record everything in a week and mix it in a week. And so I figure if I start like in September, I'll have at least a year to work on it, you know, because I still have a lot of shows after the summer, 50 shows this summer, but then I'm going out west, and we're going to get out of Canada in 2015, you know, so.
I was looking at your tour schedule, and it does look like you're not stopping. I mean, we were saying off camera before about, you know, you're playing a lot of places that I imagine the average musician doesn't get to play. You know, what is it like getting to some of these places that take 20 hours to drive to versus playing, you know, a place like Montreal or even Quebec City?
Well, it's just a lot more time in the van, but once you get there, you know, it's all the same. People enjoy a good show, and people are there to have a good time, and so, you know, it can be wherever, but it's just the distance, you know. A lot more, you know, there's a lot of traveling involved.
And with some of those places, there's only a short period of time in the year where it's probably even possible to get there.
Yeah, like we were in Thunder Bay last week. I mean, Thunder Bay, their summertime must last like a month and a half, you know. And I was going to Saskatoon and Regina last year, and on the way there, you know, like we've seen all seasons. Southern Ontario was like summertime, and Thunder Bay was they had a snowstorm on the way and back, you know. So you don't really play there the rest of the year, you know.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, looking back at your tour in March, you've performed with an Australian. Can you tell us a little bit about going on the road with Kim?
Oh, Kim Churchill, that was awesome. We had such a great time. We also had Matt Anderson on the gig. He's from Nova Scotia. Does a solo thing also, guitar player and singer, awesome singer. And it really worked because we're all doing something really different. Even though we're all like, Kim's also a one-man band, you know, it's a different style. And so it wasn't like, you know, they'd get like 3 hours of the same thing, you know, so the audience really loved it. And they were really nice guys. We got along great, and I wish we'll be able to do that again someday.
And you played with Matt in Montreal?
Yeah, last week.
As we discovered.
Yeah. At the Jazz Festival. I actually did 3 shows last week at the Jazz Festival in Montreal. Did my solo thing, and then with the other guy that you saw with Matt Anderson, Paul Delorier, we did something at Metropolis, which is a huge place. And the Jazz Festival, the Montreal Jazz Festival, asked me to organize a big show, 3 hours of Hendrix. I started playing guitar when I heard Hendrix, you know, like changed my life completely. And you never get to play 3 hours of Hendrix. We ended up playing almost 4 hours.
Wow.
We did 3 hours, 45 minutes, 35 songs. It was awesome. Just a one-off, but it was great.
Did someone record it? You know,
I don't think so. There's some stuff on YouTube.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So sometimes those things end up becoming pretty good records if you.
Sometimes they're pretty nice, you know.
Yeah. Well, looking ahead, you know, you've toured with Kim. You've, Matt's made it down to Australia with Ben Kaplan and some other guys. What are your plans?
Well, I've been talking to some people over there. They wanted me there in January to tour with, I can't remember his name, but he's not going to tour in January. So it's going to happen later, probably in 2015.
Fantastic. Well, we hope to get you down to Australia.
I'd love to.
For now, everyone can jump on iTunes and get the volume 2 of your solo recordings. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
Thanks, man.